Hi everyone. Today's topic is something that I feel like we're constantly trying to navigate, constantly questioning our relationship with movement and seeing how we can adapt to it, make it a little bit better for ourselves. And just like with anything, it's a continuous learning journey. So I just wanted to share how my perspective has shifted lately about movement, and it will probably change again many times throughout time. And more specifically, what is movement to me through routines, through weekly workouts, how to try and weave movement into your life more naturally rather than feeling that you have to stick to this strict routine so that you keep that consistency going, how to feel less pressure about movement as well. And I think me personally, having grown up as an athlete playing tennis, I was also moving a lot of the time of the day. So going into adulthood, there was that shift of looking for that routine in my everyday life. And I guess when you're doing it all the time, it's never quite the same. So I think a lot of people that grew up playing sport have that feeling that later in life they're trying to find how to adapt movement to their lifestyle a little bit more. So the main thing I've observed a shift that I had is that within the last 2 years, in my head, I was quite strict about the routines I wanted to have to build that consistency, to make sure I do a certain amount of workouts, runs, classes throughout the week. And if I didn't get that done, I would feel quite a lot of pressure. And I guess a lot of the time that meant I would be restarting in a way, maybe trying something different because I felt like I couldn't complete that quite unrealistic goal, I guess. And kind of coming back to the fact that I was used to playing sport when I was younger, I think I really noticed a difference in motivation because I felt that if I planned this schedule and I wasn't able to commit to certain days, I felt like I failed. Whereas when I was younger, I had more of that time, and I also had, being younger, you don't really have a choice. You have to show up to those sessions. So it's almost easier to be motivated because it's something you have to do. You can't get out of it. So I think that's something you have to find again within yourself. How can you not make up those excuses? And well, for me, the easiest way has been to make movement into work, as I can't not show up to a Pilates class. So I guess it's refinding that again and finding that authority within yourself to be like, how do I make sure I show up? And also, how do I adapt it to that adult lifestyle where maybe it's good to be a bit more flexible and not so strict with yourself? I guess instead of just becoming really disciplined, really strict on myself, I tried to see how I could make those slight changes to adapt movement into my lifestyle without being like, I have to commit to this. Just seeing little tweaks and how it could naturally come into fruition. And I guess that kind of space really helps not to make more excuses and not waiting until that perfect week and feeling like, wow, I nailed movement this week. And finding more of that grace for yourself and looking into the week that you already have and how you can fit movement around that. I think the routines I used to set, whether it was focused on Pilates, on gym, on walking, on running, it was a lot for a week. It was, I'm going to try and do 3 gym sessions, 3 Pilates sessions, 1 run a week, walk every other day type of thing. And I think a lot of that was influenced seeing every other influencer say that online as well, which I guess can make sense once you've built up to that. But I think before you get there, that's quite unrealistic. So I feel like there's this idea of a perfect routine, and that if you're not fitting into that category, you can feel like you're not moving enough or not improving enough in training. And I think the perfect routine puts a pressure in a sense that you're always considering that every week you're going to have the perfect energy levels, kind of treating that week like a checklist. It has to get done, and not really leaving that room for adapting to how you're actually feeling. So if you have a lower energy week, taking that into account, and mainly those expectations of having those unrealistic goals. So telling myself I'm going to do 3 Pilates classes a week, 2 free gym sessions a week, walk 10k steps every day, adding a run in. Whereas now, if I were to build up a routine again around my lifestyle, I would start with one Pilates class a week, one gym session a week, and maybe 2 walks. So again, depending on where you're at, making it realistic for yourself so that you can stay motivated, because you're not setting that target way too quickly. And there's so many little spirals that can come with having that kind of approach. Whether it's having that mindset, oh, I'll restart next week and it will be more of a perfect week next week, or trying to make up for any missed workouts, or only counting a workout if you really felt that you put everything into it and finished it completely. Just seeing that interrupted perfect week as a failed week can naturally go into these spirals where you lose motivation and not even enjoying movement for what it's meant to give you and what you're actually doing it for. And I think the more you can step into that healthier, flexible approach, the more you recognize any kind of movement that you're able to do. Small session still feels like you're being healthy towards your body and you're slowly building that strength. And instead of feeling like you failed a week or interrupted it, not making it such a big event, seeing that as a normal part of life and adjusting to it a bit more naturally. And I guess being aware of these patterns, I start to notice what that healthy mindset looked like and why I was able to move even more when I wasn't so strict with myself. Noticing things like what kind of movement felt easy to return to. For me, that has definitely been a lot more home Pilates, home gym workouts, just because I really like getting a workout done there and then, rather than having to go out of my way. But that's just something I found for myself, and that can look different for everybody. And I noticed that the weeks that I felt the most naturally strong and healthy was when I just added a bit of movement wherever I could in smaller ways. Maybe when I was taking a call, going for a walk. I guess the cliche things as well, like taking the stairs instead of an elevator, working out what time of the day movement suited me best, when I had the most energy, and what kind of approach actually helped me to enjoy movement more rather than feeling like it's an obligation. So even finding less time and doing things more consistently works well for me. So instead of being like, oh, I'm going to do an hour mobility workout, starting with, I'm just going to do 10 to 15 minutes and that might be enough for today, or if I feel like it, I'll continue for a little bit longer. And I guess having that flexible approach, just trying to really adapt things to my lifestyle, not feeling like it's another thing that I have to add to my schedule, but trying to pair it with something, whether it's a location that I'm going to or an activity that I'm doing already, and noticing those thinking patterns where I would think movement only happens in a gym or a studio, but noticing how much you are actually moving throughout the day and where you're able to add that into your lifestyle, and just not restricting yourself in that way. So if I were to plan my movement routine now with this current mindset, I would start with the smallest, most realistic amount of movement that I could add to my week. So as I mentioned, one Pilates class, one gym class, a few walks throughout the week, and then maybe slowly building that up to 2 classes if I felt that I was able to sustain that most realistic week. And really just leaving that room for flexibility, not feeling like every week has to look the same, being okay with adapting the days for the workout, being more flexible in that sense, and also considering those energy levels. If I know that I have a really busy week coming up, I would adapt the movement to it and not feel like I have to make up for it for the weeks after. Because as we know, rest is also important, and sometimes we can perform even better by having those waves of slowing down. And again, I guess noticing more of how you're actually feeling healthy, how you're feeling strong, and just observing that progress rather than always looking to get better and better. And also related to these phases of movement and building routines, for me is a lot about maintaining this curiosity and enjoyment towards movement, feeling free to try different types of movement, and not getting stuck in a really rigid routine where maybe it gets to start feeling really repetitive. Again, maybe some people really like that, but I really like the flexibility of changing up the routines a bit more. Maybe if it is, let's say, a Pilates class, I really enjoy doing different kinds of flows. Even for my clients, I will stay with the same flow for about 2 or 3 weeks before I go into a new one, into some fresh exercises, because I feel like I am losing that curiosity when I'm not changing it up like that. And I guess that's what can happen when sometimes we really focus on those fitness goals, doing things in a specific way. It can take that enjoyment out of it, and we kind of forget why we're moving, to enjoy moving our body and not feel like we're torturing ourselves. So I think for me, the goal now is not to create a perfect routine. The goal is to create one that doesn't disappear when life changes. Keeping that natural movement, keeping it enjoyable, not feeling like consistency is having to do the most every week, but continuing to stay healthy and move through different forms of movement, and not feeling like movement has to control your life. How can you make it a part of your life in a way that just keeps it fun and healthy? Because what is the point of moving when you feel this constant pressure and feeling like you have to adapt to movement and those perfect routines, rather than movement adapting to you and finding ways that work better for you? So I hope this helps to feel a bit more curious about movement and feel a bit more excited to move in a way that you actually enjoy. Let me know what kind of routines have worked the best for you and what phases you've come across. And one small action, if you'd like to try to take away from this, would be to think about what is a movement that you could do today without postponing it to tomorrow. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what feels doable right now to you. And that is it for today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.